Yes, hello everyone. Welcome back to WD18, the Watford fan channel. Welcome to a Sunday night with Shane special. Of course, we're joined by the main man, Mr. Hornet, Shane. Shane, first off, how are you doing, mate?
I'm good, man. I am really good. We are in the middle of an international break. Normally, I wouldn't be too happy, but I'll be honest with you, we all need a bit of a break, don't we, with the constant football. But I'm kind of ready to get back into it, to be honest. This Friday, of course, everything starts up again, and it's 8 games, and I'm already nervous just thinking about those matches. Listen, it's been a nice kind of break, but it's time to get our sort of game face on again. But yeah, it's going to be an interesting run-in. I think that's the very least that I can say about it.
Good man, it is coming up to squeaky bum time. Of course, we're also joined by. I tell you what, it's a special video today, Shano. We've got 2 guests on, 2 regulars, Sam and Elliot, the usuals. Lads, absolute pleasure as always to have you guys on.
Feels weird. It feels weird to be being called a guest on this one. Mate,
on Sunday night with Shane, I feel like the guest. It's very much centered around the main man.
You guys, seriously, come on.
So today's video, we're going to be talking all things Watford, the run-in. We're going to be looking at the other teams' run-in. Elliot's done his pre-match research for this video. We've got a lot to cover in this one. I'll tell you what, we'll cross over to Sam first. Sam, how are you feeling at the moment with Watford? Because we spoke with Clevs. Actually, we'll touch on that Cleverley video. You mentioned, you tweeted out saying about how you feel more confident after that video. What was it about that Clevs, that chat with Clevs that really caught your eye?
I don't think it's a case of being more confident. I know I tweeted that, but I feel like I kind of know now that we're in safe hands. I mean, I did know already kind of the leadership we've got there with Clevs, Troy. A lot of leaders in that team that even Clevs touched on, with William Troost-Ekong as well. And I kind of always knew that, but the way that, Clevs kind of spoke to the Watford fans, I thought in the interview, just showed even more how we are in safe hands, as a football club with kind of the core group of players we've got. Obviously, there are still problems there. We don't really want to be talking about them now because things are going well on the pitch. But, in my eyes, Clevs is up there with, he's a Watford great, probably not a club legend, but, he's in that in between kind of the cult hero and the club legend kind of gap because of kind of his consistency and because of how long he's been here now. But it was great to hear from him. And, it's good to hear that we got such good leadership in the team. Yeah,
absolutely. That's one thing that definitely came across as how much of a leader Clevs is on and off the pitch. I think he even admitted it himself in the interview. Elliot, from your point of view, what did you take away from the chat with Clevs? Because as Sam said, it was, I came away from it really positive, actually, not only because you guys seem to really enjoy it, but also from what he was saying, it filled me with confidence heading into the final few games of the season.
Yeah, and I think he came across really well. I think there was some confidence you could see from the way he spoke about Watford and their chances of promotion, but also there was he was eager not to get complacent. He was talking a lot about how the job isn't done by any means. It's a huge run-in, and he said that, I think the one that stood out to me was when he said all the big teams will drop points and they won't all go unbeaten. So I really liked that from him. I like that sort of level-headedness and the fact that although they are confident that they will see it through and get through the final 8 games, I think it is, of the season, you can also see that they're eager not to get complacent and that they're not going to get in too over their heads. And I really liked how well he came across with that and how he didn't really let anything faze him. And yeah, I personally really enjoyed the interview, participating in it, and it's great to see the reaction from people as well.
Yeah, top man. Shano, number one, your thoughts on what Clevs was said in the chat, and number 2, how are you feeling at the moment as I said, heading into the last 8 games of the season?
First of all, I'm feeling great, obviously, but right now. But
I've needed to be in one of these for so long. It's been so overdue. I've wanted to do a video with Shane. It's been ages.
Well, first of all, I'm a fan. But secondly, I think obviously it's 7 o'clock now on the Sunday before we play on Good Friday. Ask me the same question at 2:07 on that Good Friday afternoon or something. It will be back to kind of the grind, really. The one thing I loved about the Clevs interview, aside from the fact that he is a consummate professional, isn't he? His experience is just so telling. He's played in some fantastic sides. Watford being one, of course, he made the mention, of course, that he's actually made the most appearances now for Watford. He sees it as his club. Those are some fantastic things to be saying. You know what I mean? And it's just it's one of those things whereby I kind of look at it and think, we talk about cult heroes all the time. We talk about players that we've had a love for and an affection with. Klebs will go down as one of those players for me. He spoke so highly about the club, and this is a man who's shared a midfield with Paul Scholes. Come on. I mean, he's. I mean, you look at the players that he's played with in his career, and I love the interview, and I think you three guys did a fantastic job with all of that as well.
Cheers, mate.
Coming from you, Shane, that just
Shane,
the seal of approval.
No, but listen, but do you know what though? And I think what Sam was saying was absolutely spot on. The fact that he was very relaxed in the interview. I think that's the one thing I've kind of noticed about some of these kind of the interviews that have been done. But I think Clev's again relaxed, but also he's got his mind is fully on the promotion push. Of course, the one big thing I kind of learned from the interview was, of course, the whole senior players getting together after the Coventry game and everything, and that was particularly telling. Trusticon kind of leading that as well, showed that the senior players clubbed together to basically say, this isn't good enough. Obviously, they might have said it in slightly harsher terms than that, because it was worse than that, because let's be honest, after the Coventry game, we all kind of sat here as glum as anything, really. And
we were sat here, weren't we, Shane? Sunday night with Shane, we thought it was... we were questioning Xisco, weren't we? We were questioning everything. Questioning
him, questioning the mentality of the players. Are they really up for it? Do they really care? I think was kind of what I kind of came away from after the Coventry game. But Xisco's turned it around. The players have turned it around. We've spoken so much on here about individuals, and with the likes of Chalobah, for example, Sirialta getting a lot of praise recently. I see a few London clubs are in for him, annoyingly. But, we're all kind of clubbing together. It's been great to see a lot of the players kind of at training. I think they're actually training today. Xisco getting a lot of the academy players in there. The injured players are kind of coming back. Saw Troy in the gym. You see Deli Bashiru kind of doing stuff. Cabastelle as well played some minutes with the under-23s. It's all coming together. I know I made the mention of it, and a couple of people got, kind of thought it was a bit of a joke, but it does feel quite Avenger-y. Everyone's kind of gearing up now for the final battle scene kind of thing. Let's just hope we don't go out with a massive whimper, really. That's just kind of what I'm hoping for. And whilst it's all positive now, it's going to be hell for leather, I think, in those last 8 games. And some of the fixtures, I mean, just looking at the run-in, it's just dreadful, frankly. They couldn't have given us 8 harder matches, to be honest.
Well, this is the thing, Shane. We'll dissect Watford's running in just a moment. Before we do get into that, first off, there's been really nice comments in the chat from Rudy about the Clevs interview. Freddie as well. Thank you so much for the support with the videos, particularly the interviews have been absolutely fantastic. Sam, heading into the last 8 games, how are you feeling? Just brutally honest, are you feeling confident, nervous, apprehensive, mixture of both?
It's a mixture of all of them, because while we are in pole position to kind of, take it by the scruff of the neck now, if you look at the form of us and the other teams around us and the performances, you obviously have that nagging at the back of your mind as a Watford fan going, no way we're going to see this through. And it's the bottling is coming at some point, like against Sheffield Wednesday at home, where we're nailed on to win. We're just going to end up losing 1-0 in the last minute. But
not a repeat of the final day.
Yeah, I was going to say we don't have good history at home for Sheffield Wednesday. But yeah, I mean, the international break I think came at a good time, not just for supporters, because I was finding it exhausting watching us, and I feel like for the players as well, because on the most part they've got a good rest, good opportunity for Xisco to kind of bring some academy players into the first team, as we've kind of seen in the last week or so. So I'm excited, I'm nervous, I want it to be over, to be honest with you.
Yeah. Elliot, same question. Same question to you. How you feeling for heading into the run-in for Watford?
Yeah, I was exhausted, like Sam said, with just the barrage of games. Not just with Watford, because it was just there was a game on every night, and it was tiring and draining. So I was sort of glad that we had a little break in there. So it does worry me slightly, because it can be a momentum killer. As much as the international break was needed, we don't know which Watford we're going to see when we do play next Friday. But I just hope that we hit the ground running again, like we have done, and continue where we left off, because that's the key, just to keep that run going. And in terms of the other teams, I'm not too worried, because I think we've got what it takes to ultimately just get more points than them in the games left. But there is always that worry that it's going to hit us right at the end where we slip up, and we've got 2 very, very big games to finish things off. And I think against well, obviously we'll go into it later, but having Brentford and Swansea at the last two can be seen as a positive. We've sort of got it in our hands, and we've got this sort of weird mini league scenario with them where we've just got to try and pick up 6 points. But I think we've got what it takes, and it's just about which Watford sets foot on the pitch at the Brentford Community Stadium and then at Vicarage Road for the last day. So to answer your question of how I feel, I don't really know.
Yeah, I have to admit, lads, I'm a mixture of pretty much everyone who spoke so far. Nerves, excitement, apprehension. I mean, you've got everything at the moment. Shano, for you, looking at the run, and you were going to mention it in your last point. I'll tell you what, we'll look at that Easter weekend kind of first. I mean, in that 2014-15 season, it was Derby and Middlesbrough, wasn't it? And you felt like that was the catalyst
season defining, wasn't it?
That was, as you mentioned, Sam, that season defining. I remember Guediola's assist to Igalo when we were down to 10 men. I mean, that was just stuff of dreams. And then Igalo in the Middlesbrough game at Vicarage Road. I mean, that was an unbelievable finish. And Troy, obviously, on the score sheet. When you look at that Easter weekend coming up, Shana, do you think that is the pivotal point in our season and in our running?
I think it is. Yeah, I think it's Friday and. Oh God! You're looking at those two fixtures. I look at specifically at the Middlesbrough away game. We had Middlesbrough at home, didn't we, in that promotion season? Easter Monday, 12:30 kickoff, and this time around it's Easter Monday, 12:30 kickoff. Except for the fact that we are away from home this time. So, that could go either one or two ways, really, couldn't it? But look, I'm confident for the Sheffield Wednesday game. If I'm honest with you, I feel more confident whenever we're at home. I know we've said that so many times on here, and that's probably getting quite boring for people to hear, but I genuinely am, because we are playing on a carpet. I trust that the team know what they're doing. Sheffield Wednesday, look, they're fighting for their lives down there at the bottom. They've got some tough players in that team. And look, they're fighting for their lives. Anything can happen from their perspective. They're going to want to turn up, a bit like Birmingham did, maybe. Try and keep it as tight as they possibly can. To Birmingham's kind of detriment, we kind of scored the early goal in that respect, so that kind of put them on the back foot a little bit. Early goals are what we need. Get the first goal, make sure it's early, and from then on, we can kind of push, really. Middlesbrough away, Neil Warnock's a super tough tactician, isn't he? He's gained a bit of a reputation down the years, but he's a shrewd. I think the saying is actually a shrewd operator, because what he's done with our Middlesbrough team, I still think, I've not actually checked the table recently, but they are still in with a shout of the automatic of the promotion spots. I assume.
Yeah, well, they're ninth at the moment, Shane. They're still in the mix.
Yeah. So they've got to put together a bit of a run, but that's the potential banana skin, I think, over that Easter weekend, and that kind of does test a lot of the players. You don't get that in the Premier League. We only play on that weekend, and then that will be it. It's the double header, the Friday, it's the Good Friday and Easter Monday. It'll be about trying to get the job done early, I think, on the Good Friday. Head into the training, head into the dressing room, do a few vamoses to the camera, and then kind of rest up again, really, because that's the kind of mentality that we're going to need, right? Because we want to get the job done early. We want to be able to rest some players and then to go again, as it were, on the Easter Monday. The one big advantage we do have, I will just end on this little point here, is that we are playing ahead of our rivals on Good Friday and also on the Easter Monday, because I think Swansea got the 7:45 game, I think it is, on the Good Friday. Then on Saturday lunchtime, the 3rd of April, it's Brentford Huddersfield, I think. And so in that respect, we're playing before them. There's no pressure. We're not really going to be watching the games beforehand, or if you're me, not watching the games beforehand. Go into those games, do the job, and hopefully reap the rewards afterwards. We've done that the last couple of game weeks. Can it happen again? That's what we're going to find out.
That's the big question. Sam, do you think that's a big part, as Steve mentioned just there in the chat, and as Shano mentioned, we do play before Swansea and Brentford in the next two games. Is that coming at our detriment, or is that a positive thing that we can maybe apply a bit more pressure onto those two?
To be honest with you, Jacob, I don't really think about it like that. I quite like to think that if we get the job done by ourselves, we don't have to worry about other teams. Obviously, you have to look at the psychological aspect, particularly on Brentford and Swansea, of having, they probably would be whispered the Watford score just before they walk out onto the pitch. But I quite like to think that, the fact that it is in our own hands, that we can focus on the job at task just for us. The fact that we, arguably have the best squad in the league, or second best squad after Norwich. and ability wise, we should be able to beat anyone in this division. So I quite like to think that if we turn up, then we don't have to worry about anyone else around us. But I think it probably would favour us. But just touching on your question for Shane as well, it's always been a running history in the Championship that Easter weekend shapes the kind of the promotion race, and it wouldn't shock me if not us, but if 2 of the 3 teams pull away from another one. Wouldn't shock me. I don't know if Swansea or Brentford lose 2 out of 2, then that's probably it for them as well. So it very much has the making of being season defining. We could be sat here, in 8 days' time and feel like we're pretty much got one foot through the door of the Premier League, or still very much in the mix. So it could go either way.
Yeah, absolutely. Elliot, I wanted to get your thoughts on them running. Which games particularly stand out? I mean, if I just read out the run in here, I'm really getting more nervous as I read it. But it's Sheffield Wednesday this Friday at home, Middlesbrough away on the Monday, and then you've got Reading at home, Luton away, Norwich away, Millwall at home, Brentford away, and then Swansea at home on the last game of the season. Any particular games stand out to you immediately, Elliot?
Well, obviously the big games stand out, but I think the ones that maybe go under the radar are obviously Sheffield Wednesday being huge because it's the first game after the international break. We don't know the condition of players after that. We don't know the sort of turnover. I haven't quite looked into the fixture of the international players, but I know for some teams there are players that will have played 40 hours before. And
it looks like we might be missing Dan Bachman, who's playing on Wednesday, and Ken Sema's playing on Wednesday, whether they start or not for their national teams, but it could be a big problem.
Just to jump in there, just on today's fixtures, both of these 2 guys are on the bench. So I don't know whether that's a resting thing or rotation, but Bachman didn't play the game against Scotland either. So I don't think, and even then, I don't know if the international fixture period is a massive strain on a goalkeeper in particular. I think he should be okay. So I guess it's the likes of Ken, Truce to Congo, who has to do a lot of travelling. Sorry, Elliot, to interrupt there, mate.
Yeah, and it's the travelling that worries me more than anything, because actually Ken Sema I don't think played in his previous game either. So I think maybe relegation has benefited us in that sense that a lot of our international players aren't actually playing that much for their country. So I think Sheffield Wednesday is an absolutely massive one. I think Reading is another big one because they'll have quite a few players back that have been big misses for them. They've had the likes of Andre Yadon back. They have I think they have Jonathan Swift back from injury soon. They have Michael Morrison, their club captain, back. So, and even Yaku Maite, who's been really good for them this season. So they'll be worrying because we know how good they were at the start of the season. And if they can get back to that, then they're a really tough outfit to face. I think the derby is absolutely huge. Like, I can't understate how big this, cannot overstate rather how big this big this game is, because Luton don't actually have anything to play for, really. No disrespect to them, but they are not.
No, you can disrespect them, Elliot.
They're absolutely not getting relegated, and they're absolutely not getting promoted. So this is, I think, if there's a Luton fan looking at their fixture list, the one at home to Watford is massive.
Something to play for, isn't it? Yeah.
And they'll put their best team out, and Nathan Jones will probably have them fired up as he thought he did for the other one. And then obviously Norwich is a weird one because we don't know what state they'll be in at that point. And Swansea and Brentford is the same. We don't know, like Sam said, if they stumble here and have a couple of bad results, they could be out of the discussion at that point and having to settle for a playoff finish. So it's a weird one, but I think the standouts for me for the next few weeks is Sheffield Wednesday and then Luton.
Yeah, absolutely. Michael says in the chat here, Shane, don't worry, lads, Sol will have a nice, refreshing break and fingers crossed be raring to go. I mean, that is a very fair point in the sense that, Sol not having to travel to Senegal and play international football is obviously a massive boost for us because the guys played, I think it was 18 games in a row or something ridiculous just the other week. For you, the player situation, as Elliot touched on there with Ken, Bachman, Truce to Kong, does that come into Xisco's mind? Do we need to be careful about rotating and preserving, or is it pretty much just continue what we had before in terms of the lineup?
I think if they're fit for play,
his Wi-Fi, his Wi-Fi's gone. Yeah.
Oh,
hello. No,
are you back, Shane?
He's back. He's back. He's back. He's back.
Mate, that's the running nerves. The running nerves seeped into the Wi-Fi.
No, listen. Do you know? I will say actually on that point. Like, I know I mentioned. I don't think Ken played the last game. Backman, I think, has kind of been on the bench. So those players are kind of, and this is what kind of annoys me about the international break as a whole. It's the whole where you travel all the way there, you stay in the hotel, you played 3 matches, and I get absolutely 0 minutes on the pitch. So what the hell was the point of me traveling all the way there when I could have just sat at home with, I don't know, a potato salad and gone cycling with Ben Foster in the gym or something? Like, well, you know what I mean? Like,
other salads are available.
Yeah, okay, yeah, fine, yeah, all right. Yeah, obviously. But no, listen, I think if they're fit, they've got to play. I think the one thing we have had a big advantage with is Sarr is one guy we mentioned. Got to give a big mention. Sirial to João Pedro not going away with their respective countries. South America countries, we always hear. I remember, I think it was after our first season in the Prem, we played Arsenal at Vicarage Road. I think it was after the international break in October, and Alexis Sanchez had played for Chile. He turned up at Vicarage Road. He put in like a man of the match performance, and he came back on like Friday morning for a Saturday like 5:30 kickoff, and he looked like the freshest player on the pitch, to be honest with you. So there is obviously that as well, and I think we've kind of been helped in that respect. I think that's actually a really good thing. But I look at the next coming games, and I think I've got to take on board. I think Sheffield Wednesday, that game will be tough, but the toughest game for me is the derby. As Elliot said, they're not getting promoted, they're not getting relegated, which means they're able to sit there and think, right, how are we going to poop on their parade? How are we going to basically manufacture like their? Well, I don't know. If we were to use a motorsport analogy here, how can we make their promotion campaign go up in flames? That's what they'll be thinking. They were well up for the game at Vicarage Road. It wasn't a great performance that day. I think we got a little bit lucky. João Pedro's goal, they had a shot cannon off the crossbar. I mean, oh my God, it was just a terrible minute or so. Where and I genuinely thought we got very lucky that day and we pulled through. We need to see a more convincing performance, but they'll be well up for it. We know the kind of challenge that Reading, Norwich are going to pose. The last 2 games, we're either Swansea or Brentford. One of those sides will probably be out of it. If we're heading into the final game of the season, and both of those sides are still in it, we've had an incredible season. I mean, for the neutral, it would have been an incredible season to watch 3 teams battle for that second spot. But I feel like one of those sides will drop away. I'm not going to say who, because this will be clipped up as a meme and will be fed to me every time it goes wrong. But we know the danger sides in this division, the good sides, the high quality sides. For me, it's the sides that have got nothing to lose that are the big ones for me. I mean, the derby is just it's making me feel quite nervous now, because you can easily see a game whereby you wake up, things are not really feeling great. It's a 12:30 kickoff. It's not live on TV, which means I've got to try and find a stream for it. I then end up crying because my stream's 5 minutes behind. And then we end up in the situation whereby it's the 89th minute and they've scored a goal and they win it 1-0. You can see that. It will feel really off. I feel like we'll be up for all the games against the high-quality teams. Some fans have said that we could maybe go unbeaten. I think that's a little bit too ambitious. But the derby's the game whereby it'll be very easy for us to just switch off and be like, yeah, fine, it's a win. To be a little bit cocky, to be a little bit too arrogant. We must not be arrogant. But I look at the derby as the biggest game, I think. Other sides, Millwall, for example, we didn't particularly play very well at the Den. That was a pretty forgetful performance, really. A forgettable performance. Then you've got Reading, who have beaten us. They know what we're all about. I'm so nervous just thinking about it all already. But I have confidence. I do have confidence. And, I saw that comment in the chat. You've got the likes of Sarr, who's potentially coming back from injury. That's going to be a big help. As long as the players that are playing internationals this week, for the love of God, please don't get injured. we should be okay. And I think we should play our strongest 11 if it's available.
Sam, before we go on to getting some insight from Elliot on Swansea and Brentford, I just wanted to get your thoughts on that running, because I asked Elliot and Shane about it. What games particularly stand out? We talked about the Easter weekend, but is it that derby you feel like that's the pivotal one, or is there another one?
The two games I'd say I am most nervous for, or actually I think there's a lot to say in the teams who don't have anything to play for. So I'm going to go the two ones that I'm looking out for are Luton away and Millwall at home. I'm actually going to say it's going to be a really, really tough game. I back us at home. As Shane said at the top of the show, that I am more confident whenever we play at home. But it's the fact that these teams, I remember the last day of the season when Jack Bonham got chipped by Ross McCormack. Leeds had nothing to play for, and they literally turned up, putting a world-class performance just to spoil our party. And I have that fear that, the fact that we'll have the pressure on us and other teams won't, that could come and affect us psychologically, which is why I do think it's a good thing that we are playing these more, difficult teams with more to play for around us, as the pressure will kind of be more leveled out throughout the pitch.
Yeah, if we have a look at Elliot, I wanted to get your thoughts really on Brentford and Swansea. Obviously, they're the two automatic promotion rivals. First off, we'll take a look at Swansea. They've got to play. I think they've still got to play not Sheffield Wednesday. They've got to play Birmingham away, Preston at home, Millwall away, Wickham at home, QPR at home, Reading away, Derby at home, and then obviously Watford on the last game of the season away. And then just looking at Brentford as well, they've got Huddersfield away, Birmingham at home, Preston away, Millwall at home, Cardiff at home, Bournemouth away, Rotherham at home, Watford at home, and then Bristol City away. From your perspective, how are you? From your perspective, your thoughts first off of Brentford and Swansea and their running, and do you think we're the best equipped out of the three? And I don't want to put words in your mouth here, but it does feel like we're going into it with the best form. I think that's a fact. We're in great form at the minute. From your perspective on those teams, how do you think they'll get on? And what do we need to look out for? Which games in particular?
It's definitely Watford's to lose. Yeah, and
he said it. He said it.
I don't think that's because I think that actually is probably I think that's a negative statement to make, because now that it's Watford's to lose, there's a possibility for things to all go completely wrong. But at the moment, see, the league table says it is Watford's to lose. They're in second. They're in the right position right now. And there are a lot of banana skins in those Swansea and Brentford fixtures against a lot of teams that are lower down the table, actually quite strong defensively. So teams like Millwall, who are pretty solid. You've got QPR, who have a lot of talent in there, but just sometimes don't show up on the day. And then you've got Wickham, who are just, they can sometimes just hit you with it. And it's a weird one with Wickham, because they'll probably be down at that point or near enough. So they might just try and play for the 3 points, play attacking football and see what happens. So I think there are a lot of possibilities there for both Brentford and Swansea to drop points. With Swansea, the fact is they've lost their last two and they've been pretty disappointing and bitter defeats. To lose 3-0 to Bournemouth, who are ultimately a promotion rival, is really disappointing for them. And they didn't show up at all. They were terrible. And then against Cardiff, it doesn't matter how you lose. If you lose in that derby, you're going to feel awful afterwards. And I do wonder if that hangover is something that the international break will have fixed, or whether it actually will have worsened it, because if you're sitting on that defeat for 2 weeks, it must be a very bitter pill to swallow for them. They've got a very strong back line, but if you look at their strikers, Ayew and Lowe are both very good. Andre
Ayew came off injured tonight for Ghana.
That's interesting.
So that's just a bit. That's just coming out now.
He has been the absolute source of their attacking creativity and their goals. So that could be a big loss for them if that's serious. I think Jamal Lowe has had his moments, but I don't think he's consistently a good enough striker for them to sustain a good goal scoring form. They've struggled to get goals a lot recently. Defensively, like I've said, they've not really got too many problems, but even then, one injury to someone like Mark Gurhey and it's all thrown into doubt. As for Brentford, it's a weird one with Brentford, because I've got family ties to Brentford, so I know a lot about what they do. I know a lot about their potential to slip up, but I also know the talent that they have. The fact is, Ivan Toney has been almost the sole source of their goals this season. I think Sergio Canos is their second top scorer with 7 goals. And although he's been good, he hasn't been great in patches, and he's sort of like a hot and cold player. Brian Mbeumo, who was touted by many to be the next Brentford forward to make it big, like Saeed Benrahma and Ollie Watkins. He's had a really difficult season. He's been isolated at times, and he's quite literally been isolated with coronavirus for a long spell. He had a difficult bout with COVID, and I don't think he's looked the same since then. They've got a lot of talent up front. They've got the likes of Tariq Fosu and Marcus Force off the bench, and they have got a lot of depth. They've got great midfield, and when they have Josh Da Silva back, when they have Christian Norgard absolutely 100% fit, and then Pontus Jansson as well, their captain, when he comes back, it'll be huge. Rico Henry shapes a lot of how Brentford play under Thomas Frank, and I think his loss has been huge for them as well. So when he's back, that'll also be great for them, and I think they'll thrive with his return. So it is a lot of waiting on injuries, but they didn't do very well last season when the pressure was on and when they were under the cosh. So I could see them doing it again, and I could see them struggling, but at the same time, they have got the talent to see them through. So I think it's more of a mentality thing than a personnel thing with Brentford. So I think if Watford can keep their heads, they've obviously got the talent, and I think with those last 2 games of the season, they've got more than enough talent to beat Swansea, and they should. The fact is they should. I'm not saying they will, but they should. And then against Brentford as well, it all depends on which Brentford show up on the day, and it might be at that point it's too late for one of those 2 teams. So it is fair to say that Watford have they're in the best position going into this, but it's just whether they can sustain that and whether we hit the ground running with this post-international break run of fixtures.
Yeah, really, really good insight from Elliot there about Swansea and Brentford and their situations. Shano, just finally hearing that, what's your reaction to it? Are you feeling more confident or less confident?
Look, I think it's one of those with. I think I kind of made a bit of a hint about this already. I feel like ourselves and Swansea have both got the experience, haven't we, of a promotion campaign. You know what I mean? Like we've been promoted from the Premier League. Brentford, they crumbled at the end. The whole lockdown scenario, I don't think really helped them. All right, they got themselves into the playoffs. They were beaten by a fantastic free kick. I was going to say world class. It wasn't world class. It was a good free kick. But
what was Raya doing?
At the end of the day,
that was awful.
Yeah, I know. Yeah, no, exactly that as well. But and it's that though, isn't it? It is that moment of heartbreak that could become like a run motive throughout between now and the end of the season, because from what I've seen on social media, a lot of their fans are not happy with Thomas Frank, or the ones follow on anyway. But they're not particularly happy with it. They can see a similar chain of events happening this season as what happened last season, and in that respect, I feel like I think a few people have kind of made a mention to it. We've got the squad quality. I think our squad quality is second, I think, only really to Norwich, if I'm being honest with you. Although we have beaten Norwich already this season, and that could be an interesting point. We talk about them. Would they be in cruise control? Will they be on the beach by the time we get to the 20th of April? The way which things are going right now, they might well be. I've seen. I think I even mentioned this to you guys. I think I even mentioned this last week on here. Is that a lot of their fans are like, you know what? Watford have come from nowhere. We'll probably draw that game or something. Then feeling less and less confident, because look at where we were in December time after the Coventry game. We were all the way back there. Now all of us sudden we're 8 points behind Norwich now. It's 6 points clear of Brentford. I think it is, and 7 points clear of Swansea, or maybe the other way around. I mean, come on, we are the horse in the final furlong that is going the fastest. We are going down that home straight, and we've got the momentum, kind of thing. To chuck in a Formula One reference in there, which I thought I would. But you know what I mean? Am I more or less confident right now? I'm slightly more confident. I don't know why. Elliot has given us reasons as to why the other 2 sides could potentially slip up, and that's good.
Don't put this on me.
Because no, exactly, and it's a bit of a relief as well. All right, Swansea might have their injury problems today with Andre Ayew. That doesn't necessarily mean that they're out of it, but it's kind of catching up on them a little bit. They've had a few very favourable decisions, a couple of which I don't really agree with, but the last couple of games they've been pegged back a little bit. That's crucial. That's massive for us, but it's only massive for us, and it only matters if we're able to take advantage of it. If we were to lose a game and Swansea lose a game, no one's gained anything unless Brentford win. We've got to do the business. And so, in answer to your question, I'm slightly more confident, but we all know it could all go wrong. We're talking about the shortfalls. I'm sure there are plenty of other podcasts and other places out there who are doing exactly the same with us as well, and they're feeling more confident about their own ability. That's just the beauty of the season that we're in right now. And if it is in, I think I would actually also say as well, whilst I'm actually on this point, it was a very good podcast / radio show in the week. I think Colin Murray has a show on 5 Live. I love him. Any opportunity to tune into him is obviously one I'm going to take. Actually, had the guys off. I can feel the people now just ticking it off the little bingo chart.
I was waiting for the accent,
right? But they actually did do. I think it was the last couple of hour podcasts during the week. A couple of guys of not of the top 20 podcasts came on to review the rest of the season. Ali Maxwell, I think George Ellick, I think it was. They did a very good, very comprehensive review of that. And if you guys have seen that, anyone watching, kind of tune into that, because they go through the full running and everything, and it's very much a case of Norwich are basically clear, and I think that's kind of been kind of put out there. I can't see them kind of slipping up. It is about that race for second. Squad quality wise, I feel like we're ahead of the other two, but it's about pulling together those results. If we can go between now and the end of the season, I think I predicted about 6 wins out of 8, because I think that's what we'll realistically get, touch wood. Then I think we'll be okay. But Elliot's just given me about a million reasons to start dreaming, a million reasons to start thinking that I might be, knee deep in water in the pond or something, restrictions are lifted. Shane has his new shirt on. He whips off his shirt and goes round and round and round like that. And
I've already seen a few tweets to Watford Council saying clear the pond out. Sam, I wanted to bring you in there.
I've seen a few people tweet that. I have.
Yeah, there's been a few tagging Watford Council. Sam, just to wrap up, you backing us, mate? Are you backing us to go up?
I am. I'm backing us. This is going to come back to bite me, isn't it? No, I do. I do back us. I feel like we've hit form at the right time. I feel like we've got important players returning now. We got Tom Cleverley coming back. We've got Zinchenko and Sarr. Seen very minor knocks during the Birmingham game, and it's good. I know we spoke about before that. Would you take the hit for that if they're going to be fit for the run-in? And absolutely. And they have taken the hit, and they should be back now. Also got the likes of Christine Kabasele coming back, and a couple of others, and that's going to shape up for a really good end to the season for us. I feel like, I know Shane didn't mention, I didn't want to mention it, I am more nervous about Brentford than Swansea. I feel like, I don't know, Brentford just have that bit more experience in their squad. I know they have had a couple of bad experiences in the last couple of years, but perhaps they would have learned from it. So I am more nervous about them, but I do back us just with the quality of the squad, and we've got more riding on it, I think, this promotion than the other two clubs, because I don't want to say it, we're doomed if we don't go up, but it's more important for us to get promoted than the other two clubs, I think.
Just as you mentioned, Sam, about kind of the experience in this Watford squad, if we just go through it just quickly, Troy's obviously been promoted with us. Ben's obviously got that experience. You've got Andre, got promoted with Burnley. Will Hughes didn't get promoted with Derby, but knows what it's like to be in the promotion push. You've got Nathaniel Chalobah, who obviously involved in that incredible playoff semi-final. You've got Tom Cleverley, who's got a wealth of experience. You've got Dan Gosling, who's obviously been promoted with Bournemouth. Craig Cathcart's been promoted with Watford. I mean, the list goes on, really. There's a lot of experience in this Watford side, and Rob Elliott, actually, as well, who's some kind of is a good player to have in and around the squad. Elliott, how are you backing us to go up? Same question. Are you backing us?
It feels so Watford for us to all be right on the promotion push. We're halfway on the celebration bus, and then something just goes catastrophically wrong. Yeah. So I'm going to say yes, just out of pure optimism, but
love it.
It's difficult. And I think Brentford and Swansea have got a lot of talent. If they switch it on, then it is literally depending on mentality of teams at the moment, because if a team loses, they just need to pick themselves back up again. And I think that's what we did really well against Bournemouth. And I think that's probably what gives me the most confidence, the fact that we have managed to take a defeat and we've managed to move on, and we've got a really mature level-headed dressing room, and I hope that is what is the difference between us and Swansea and Brentford.
Shane, final thoughts to wrap up this special Sunday night with Shane.
I don't know, man. I think we all want to be positive, and as Elliot says, it is difficult. This is, I think, it'll be. I think the next 8 games I've heard have been referred to by people. It's 8 cup finals and all that. Yeah, it is. It is 8 cup finals because we can't afford to get it wrong. Really, we've got to go out. We've got to go full pelt. There is obviously the added element. I know. I love to read like the wider world of like news and all that kind of stuff. There's been a few reports of, I think they're looking at. I think is it the last 2 Premier League games of the season? I think they are due to have fans. I think they're actually targeting the last. I think it's the last 2 Championship game weekends as well. Potentially, that might be cut down to 1. Of course,
you'll be able to go to that one, Shane,
if
won't
it's
you?
cut down to 1, I'm having gone.
No, you'll be able to go to that one, won't you? Because they said because the Norwich game got cancelled, not cancelled, but they said that if fans are allowed in, then they'll give them to the ones who weren't able to go to Norwich, didn't they?
Yeah, and that's kind of the point there as well, is that actually I feel like the capacity there might increase. Of course, we're getting massively ahead of ourselves, but it might not actually happen. But 1 game week with fans in is very different to 2 game weeks, right? Because for the 1 game week that we had, the last game of the season, if that was to happen, 4,000 fans at Vicarage Road, roaring the team over the line, that could be massive. If you're a Swansea fan sitting in Swansea, you're sitting there up in arms about that, that's unfair. Much in the same way, however, that if it were 2 and there were, let me think, 4,000 Brentford fans inside their new stadium that they had to go to, on the cusp, on the tips of a return to the promised lands since like the late 90s or something, yeah, that's pretty intense, right? And that's where it could potentially come down to. Not saying it'll absolutely come down to the fans, but we've seen this season, football without fans has been absolutely nothing. And I'm absolutely gutted that we're all sitting here now. We don't have the prospect of going to these games. But there might be a slim chance if I'm able to sneak here, if the club do us all great. We're all able to, some of us are able to go to Vicarage Road for that last game. And, you'll
Sneak
see me on
Shado
Sky,
into his
and
usual
fan
seat
will turn around and say, look at that fan there. He's a great guy. He won't say that, obviously, because, and if he does, then, well, that will be the greatest moment of the season. It is all literally to play for. And, as Charlotte said, that could be huge. 4,000 Watford fans roaring us on. Things could well be done by then. It could become a 4,000 fan party at Vicarage Road, which will be great because everyone will turn up even though they're not supposed to. But it could actually have something resting on that game. And if there are fans back there, they will make the noise. They will bring the energy. They will roar the team over the line and into the promised land. That's what we obviously all want. It could obviously all go wrong. 4,000 fans at Vicarage Road, it could end up being, a funeral procession or something because Watford spent another season in the Championship and
arrested Watford side getting ready for the playoffs.
No.
Shano, just final thoughts. Same question. Are you backing us, mate?
Sorry, say that again.
Are you backing us? That was just simple.
Oh yeah.
Good man.
I am backing us. Yeah, I am.
Good man, top man. That has been an absolute pleasure, guys. I think there's a real mixture of I'm buzzing for the final 8 games, but also kind of pooping my pants. there's a real mixture. But make sure you do follow us and get involved with all the content heading into the final few games of the season. Obviously, it's a really, really busy time, not only for Watford, but us as a channel as well. We've got plenty more content on the way here on WD18. More of Shane, Sam and Elliot as always. And make sure you do go and follow those guys on socials. The links are in the description below. If you did enjoy the video and the stream, please do leave a like. Don't forget to subscribe to WD18. We'll be back for some more content very, very soon ahead of the Sheffield Wednesday game on Friday. The international football is almost over. Watford are back. It's a big, big time to be a Watford fan. And make sure you do get involved with all of our content here on the channel. It's been an absolute pleasure. Shano, Elliot, Sam, top stuff. You all it.